I just got back from an early June Alaska cruise with rain, wind, and temperatures in the highs in the low 50s. In this video, I'll show you exactly what I packed versus what I actually wore, plus what I actually used on board and in port, so you don't overpack or miss the essentials. I'll also share the one item I really wish I'd packed, along with the items I could have left at home. Because Alaska packing isn't about bringing more, it's about bringing the right layers and items to help you have the best trip possible without overpacking. If you like a printable packing checklist you can check off as you pack, I put one inside my Alaska Cruise Insider Guide. The guide also includes recommendations for top excursions, places to eat, free things to do, and money saving tips. You'll find it linked below. Let's get started. The layering system that worked every day. Let's start with the clothing I used every single day off the ship. My base layer was a simple long sleeve shirt. The mid layer was a warm sweater, and the outer layer was a lightweight puffer jacket, or you could bring a lightweight rain jacket. On the bottom half, I wore jeans, lightweight, water resistant pants, and thermals. On board, I dressed a bit nicer for dinner with khakis that went with everything and a nice top or sweater, such as this floral printed one or this pink sweater. I really recommend khakis because they go with everything but are a step up from jeans. As far as how hot or cold I felt in port, one thing to keep in mind is that I'm from a warmer Mediterranean climate. I personally tend to get cold more easily than I would tend to get hot. That's one reason I personally wore thermal pants every day and found them very comfortable, and wool does adjust very easily to your body temperature. Let's talk about layers more in depth. For the top, one thing I noticed during the trip that I almost never wore all my layers at once, which would be 4 layers because I had a 3-in-1 jacket. The 3-in-1 jacket had a lightweight puffer and a medium rain jacket that I could zip together if I needed to. So therefore, I had 4 top layers: the long sleeve shirt, the warm sweater, the puffer jacket, and the rain jacket. Most days, I only needed 2 or 3 of these layers in combination. The others became extra bulk that I had to carry around. However, I'm glad that I did have 4 layers because there was a couple of moments where I needed all of them. There were 2 times I used all 4 layers: a small boat excursion to Hubbard Glacier and a very cold moment on an excursion in Skagway during a trip to the Yukon where we stepped outside to enjoy the view and there was both snow and ice. It was also fairly cold at the Alaska sign, but we didn't spend much time there. Next time, I'd only bring 4 layers with me for situations when there will be snow, ice, or a glacier. The impact of wind on what you wear. One thing to keep in mind is how much the wind affects what you'll want to wear. I brought multiple hats because different conditions called for different options. Waterproof baseball cap. The first option, my waterproof baseball cap, blew off during sail away in the wind. I had to go grab it. A baseball cap does work if it's under a jacket that is tied at the neck, and it's one good option to keep rain out of your face. The second option, and my favorite and most used, is a waterproof brim hat with a chin strap. It stays on much more secure. This has been my main go-to for my 2 Alaska cruise trips. The third item is a beanie or snow cap. I used a snow cap often near glaciers and on boat excursions and in port. In my view, a beanie is a necessity in early June for cold moments of the trip. Make sure not to leave for your cruise without one. What worked well? Beyond what we already discussed, these are some items that made a real positive difference on the trip. My waterproof backpack kept everything dry during the rain I experienced on my trip. For example, in Juneau, we had almost constant rain. I highly recommend this one, but the Amazon review says that the pockets are not fully waterproof, so I made sure to keep things in the main compartment only. Waterproof hiking shoes. These shoes were one of my best packing decisions. They kept my feet dry and comfortable all day. Make sure you break them in before your trip. One thing I packed was a comfortable pair of white leather Keds for walking around the ship. It's important to have a comfortable pair of shoes for the ship if you plan to do a lot of walking. These were perfect because they were comfortable for long days and they still look nice enough to pair with smart casual outfits for dinner. Similar to your hiking shoes, it's really important to break in your shoes for onboard the ship before your cruise. I wore wool socks every day. They were breathable, cozy, and just right, never too warm or too cold. Gloves. Lightweight to medium gloves are essential on glacier and boating excursions. On my early June trip, I found myself reaching for my gloves often. One side tip with your layers is to make sure you put them in a pocket that zips. because it's easy to lose a glove or two along the way. Binoculars. I used my binoculars throughout the cruise and I really enjoyed them. This was my second cruise with the same set of binoculars and they worked great. Packing cubes. Though an optional helpful item, my packing cubes help keep everything organized and save space. Universal travel adapter. I used this adapter for the first time on a cruise and it was really convenient, helping me free up more ports because I used the adapter in the European port that was available on the Norwegian Jade, which freed up the US outlet for other devices. I was also able to plug multiple devices into this adapter for even more flexibility. Travel fan. I use a travel fan in my inside cruise cabin for the first time, and while it's not essential, it is nice to have for some extra airflow. And one thing that surprised me is that it's great for blowing out the steam after a shower. I also packed Skin So Soft Lotion, which came in handy in Icy Strait Point, where mosquitoes were the most noticeable. Things I didn't use and my biggest mistake. Now here are a few things I really didn't use or would change next time. Thermal top. I brought a thermal top, but I never ended up wearing it. My layering system really made it unnecessary. I could have chosen to worn my thermal top in early June, but I would have had to make sure that I was wearing less layers on top and lighter layers so that I wouldn't be too hot. Joggers. I never wore joggers on this trip, but I think I just didn't happen to. I could have worn them on board and wouldn't have been too hot because I did do that on my prior July cruise. Waterproof pouches. I brought waterproof pouches, but they were not needed since my backpack handled everything. And here are a few practical items worth mentioning. I packed Bonine, but I never needed it, even during some mild rocking. However, if you're susceptible to seasickness, I would definitely recommend bringing it along. I also packed ginger candy and I brought my own ginger tea on board. While I did use the candy and tea and enjoyed it, I didn't actually need it personally for seasickness. I did enjoy my ginger tea more than the tea flavors that were available on the ship. Packaged snacks ended up being one of the most useful things I packed. You can bring sealed packaged snacks onto and off the ship. I enjoyed having these bars with me on the trip since excursions can be very long and active, and lines can be very long for restaurants when you return to port. I also wouldn't skip sunscreen. UV rays are strong in Alaska. And don't forget lotion. Cruise lines do not provide lotion and your skin can get especially dry with cold and wind. I also packed 2 motion lights for my inside cabin. I think these are optional, but they worked well. I placed the brighter of the two in the bathroom on the ceiling, and then I used a lower light dimmable one just as a flashlight or to use during early morning hours and ease into the day. Magnetic hooks were another item I definitely pack again. I really liked being able to get things up and off the floor, especially damp items. Heavier items like jackets will need 2 magnets together instead of 1. On the Norwegian Jade, my magnets all worked great. I also enjoyed decorating my cabin door with Alaska-themed magnets. It makes it easier to find your door, especially at the start of the trip when you don't have your room number memorized yet. One thing I slightly regretted was not bringing a swimsuit. It was actually warm enough the first day I arrived before my cruise to go swimming at my hotel in Vancouver. I also brought a small clip-on clock that hooks on anywhere. I set it to Alaska time before I left so I could always check the time without relying on my phone, since I didn't have Wi-Fi so my phone wouldn't update on the ship. It's inexpensive, lightweight, and really convenient. My biggest mistake is that I did not bring a power bank. I almost packed my power bank before I left, but then because mine is quite heavy, I decided to leave it behind. My phone would die halfway through the day because I was filming so much. Other people, even if they weren't taking a lot of video, were also running out of battery on long excursions and day trips. If I were packing again for an Alaska cruise, a lightweight power bank would be at the top of my list. I've listed a power bank from another YouTuber in the description below, as it's thinner and lighter, and I would definitely try taking it next time. If you're planning an Alaska cruise, what are you most unsure about packing? If you're a seasoned Alaska cruiser, what is the one thing you wouldn't leave for your trip without? Leave your questions and comments below. And if you want to keep planning your trip, YouTube thinks you'll find this next video helpful. It covers more important tips for Alaska cruising. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more Alaska cruise tips.